we all doing? What an amazing crowd. Just awesome. I really love the energy that's in the room today. It's just amazing. And to see all the old faces, the people from the ATYP, and there's Shazza, and Bruce, there's Christian. So beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So my job here is just to kind of welcome you all and guide things along. I hope you like the song. That scared the bejeebus out of me. I haven't played the piano for like 20 years, so but luckily I had Cam carrying that song. Well sung, mate. Absolutely beautiful.
Couldn't have done it without you.
So we're here for two reasons. We're here for Nella's Daniela Jones's book launch, a token for Perry. Book's available there on the desk, but also. And you all know she's known as Nella, but also the opening of recent works by Malcolm Jones, and of course I'm Derek Jones. So I do have a little bit of a vested interest in the two artists that we're talking about today. So it's pretty much been keeping up with the Joneses for me since day one. We're a competitive lot. We're also very privileged today to have a very special person who's going to help launch the book, and it's my pleasure to introduce her and thank her. So thank you very much. So Libby Hathorn, thanks for coming today. I had a look at all her accolades. There's quite a few there, and probably too many to mention. Maybe she was a Jones in her past life. She's written and published more than 80 books, ladies and gentlemen, for children and young people. Books have been translated into several languages and have been adapted to stage and screen. She's won honours in Australia, Great Britain and Holland, including the Centenary Medal in 2003 for her work in children's literature. So please give it up, everybody. Big warm welcome to Libby Hathorn. Say a few words in a mission right.
Derek, you might want to do
Thank you, that's lovely.
Is that okay?
And thank you, Derek, for getting the Hathorn bit right. I'm usually called Hathorn or Hawthorn. That's lovely, thank you. Well, I wrote down a few words, and I'm pleased to be able to say that among this group here, I was one of the lucky ones who saw Nell grow up. So I was really aware. I've known Nell, and I've known her mother Annie and her painter father Malcolm for so many years. I won't say how many, but it means that I've known of her aspirations and her dedication, first of all to drama. I heard a lot about you as a young one, and obviously people in the room and your interest in drama. But more interesting to me, I suppose, is that dedication to writing. And as far as writing's concerned, I have witnessed a terrific development in terms of your skills and your confidence as well. And there in the genre she's chosen, non-fiction, poetry, which is dear to my heart as you know, and fiction, right to the adventure tale of A Token for Perry that we're going to see go out into the world today. Now I asked for Nell's CV, and honestly it reads rather like an adventure tale itself. Really incredible, so much. Acting, so theatre and TV. This is just to mention a few, by the way. Writing, including story, poetry, drama. Music, including singing and dancing. Directing, both here and in Bali. Filmmaking, and of course her abiding passion, which is teaching. And so, as most of you know, she's now a teacher, and a very good one, in Newcastle. I think and hope everyone here would really champion the idea of a holistic view of education. And if there are teachers among us, we know what we think of those tests that come up every year and drive teachers mad. But I thought that I'd use her very own words about her attitude to teaching, which permeates all that she does. I love to teach, and every year I'm excited at the possibility of not just teaching the curriculum, but at possibly changing a life or touching a life through art or writing. This has been the greatest love for me, to help children see and look and discover things and then create something new. And I think they're just beautiful words, and I think that it has to be a gifted teacher who would say that and know that. A teacher willing to pass on her own gifts. Anyway, today I have, yes, I think she deserves it. So today, as well as taking pleasure in the beautiful paintings by Malcolm, I have great pleasure in launching Nell's historical novel, A Token for Perry, that bravely ranges through time, where she's used an interesting technique, and that's to base the story in history using some real characters from history, so seating them in real historical events, while inventing, as you are the boss of the page and the writer, a great range of new characters that can interact with them, so that their dance through time rings true. It's a cracking yarn that ranges through time, the times of Patience Perry, the scary Brotherhood of the Axe with their secret coins, the shift of scenery from Devon to Van Diemen's Land to Victoria to New South Wales, and the fortunes of Patience, finally marrying, thank goodness I love a happy ending, the woman he loves in Joanna Taylor, and ridding himself of the curse that follows him. In Nell's own words, listen to this, I've got to take a deep breath. It's a tale of revenge, redemption, romance, murder, loss, massacre, and the brutal violence in the early years of the colony of Victoria. So I say you'd better be prepared. One of the aspects I like very much in this book that was Nell, whilst not flinching from the horrific treatment of Australian Aboriginals in the early days of colonising, managed to, in that time, depict characters like Perry and Joanna who had empathy with them and who managed to understand something of the impact of the huge clash of cultures. Again, I would like to point out something in Nell's afterword where she says she was hoping in portraying Aboriginals and the people who do have some insight into the times then, of her hope for a more equitable treatment for Australia's Indigenous people in our parliaments, including a treaty or proper advisory body that recognises their culture, language and participation in society. Now, no, I haven't finished it, but that's worth a clap too, thank you. The Jones family, and I don't really know Derek so much, might be unique because of their familial ties go way beyond the usual, I think. And as you can see by the exhibition this evening, they splash out and interconnect really strongly through the arts. In this instance, the launch of Nell's book, with the launch of an exhibition of paintings by Malcolm. They support one another and their artistic endeavours in so many ways, none the least combining their talents for this publication. In fact, Nell's first big literary undertaking, I think, was The Lost Sisters of Groningen, I hope that's the right pronunciation, based on the story of her own mother from the Netherlands. And that was illustrated by Malcolm rather as he has done here with drawings and paintings, like he's done for A Token for Perry. As we all know, artists among us, there are many setbacks in the world of arts. And it does take a special person to soldier on, as Nell certainly has, with A Token for Perry, because I've seen you and heard you over the years with this. To seize the idea, first of all, to love the idea, and you've got to do that, and then to see it through all its stages, to write and write again, to edit, to edit, to edit, to edit, and then to actually go ahead and publish. So that this evening we can hold the real book in our very own hands, and we can celebrate with the Jones family, and particularly Nell, the launch of her engaging story, A Token for Perry. So I declare, Colonials, A Token for Perry, a new Australian novel, is launched.
So I have prepared a little bit of a speech that I wanted to give about the book today. First of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and all the special guests, and thank you to all the people that we've got here tonight or this afternoon, people that have come all the way from Victoria, Newcastle, Stockton, there are Maitland. There are people everywhere here tonight, so I absolutely, it's astounding, and thank you very much. I feel very supported. I'd like to start off just with a welcome to country. We meet today on the traditional land of the Gadigal Wandjil people of the Eora Nation. I'd like to acknowledge their care of their land over many generations. I celebrate their ongoing achievements in today's society and acknowledge the terrible wrongs that have been committed against the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. This short novel started as an idea about deception and whether fiction novels with a historical content could lead the reader to have a new perspective of history that was typically not evident in the history literature of today. It concerned me greatly as an educator that until recently we were not teaching the real history of this country, and that this lack of acknowledgement and acceptance for our violent past was not being taught in our schools and in our universities, and still is not widely accepted in our community. As a writer, I saw an opportunity to use original sources and relatively unknown stories to tell a new tale of Australian history. I wondered, could I create a historical fiction narrative that could present a perspective that was believable and could be accepted as both literature and history? As more and more historical novels are being produced in Australia, based increasingly based on unknown and hidden facts, I started to speculate whether this genre was not only creating believable narrative, but was also crossing the boundaries of rewriting parts of history and daring to tell a new story. As a storyteller, I'm always searching for stories that are about us, based on our experiences across time and space, stories that hold a uniquely Australian voice, stories that are based on meaningful historical content and discourse, instead of dredging up the same old limited narratives that based on characters that are typical to Australian folklore and to a European perspective. Many years ago, I became very interested in the history of the Western District of Victoria. This was partly because the earliest ancestors on my grandmother's paternal side of the family arrived in the then New South Wales, or Victoria as it is now, in 1841. This early period was part of the greatest land grab in global history. And I was intrigued to know more about how my family had interacted in this harsh colonial environment before the state was separated in 1851. In search to find out what they saw and what happened in that space led me to many original sources, including the work of Aboriginal advocate James Dawson and his daughter Isabella Dawson. They'd spent their lives recording the languages and customs of the Indigenous people in Western Victoria, and Isabella Dawson then quickly became the inspiration for Joanna Taylor. The reading of letters, diaries and original sources from archives and Devon dug up many unknown figures from the early colony, including events in my own family. For example, Orlena Perry in the novel is based on Rachel Perry, my great-great auntie ×4, who lost her life in a gun accident in 1805. This was detailed in a parish diary, and her plight quickly lent itself to my narrative. Inevitably, new voices spoke to me, but this research also led me to the most hidden history of all, and that is one of massacre and the frontier or colonial wars. There in the library, I met Frederick Taylor, a deeply disturbing human being who was in his own lifetime responsible for possibly scores and scores of deaths in Western Victoria, New South Wales and in Gippsland. Surprisingly, I also met women who had their own early runs or pasture land in early Victoria, and I met figures who were also highly sympathetic to the Aboriginal causes of the day and those that weren't. In this early period of land grab and colonisation, Victoria was filled with a large Indigenous population, a few thousand colonists, convicts and squatters, and I soon realised what a violent and difficult environment it was. It was a space where anything could happen and everything did happen. The discovery of a journal by George Washington Walker, who was a missionary visiting Australia in colonial times, observed the use of convict tattoos to show membership to a secret thieving and criminal organisation in England. He was of great interest to me and became the basis for my secret society in the novel The Brotherhood of the Axe. The Axe River being the river that runs through the homes of my ancestors in Axmouth in Devon. I added the coins, which were largely based on the love tokens created by the convicts as the final farewell to loved ones before transportation to Australia, to reflect the devastation suffered by the convict classes in the 18th century. These love tokens, or leaden hearts, are powerful poetic words left to us by the convicts and are so moving that I decided to give them a symbolic and magical power in the narrative, and they have become the coins that commit the members to the Brotherhood of the Axe. These elements started to give my story then a very Gothic feel in the early tradition of Australian storytelling. Patience Perry, this lovely, attractive man here, then became the main character in my story, who is a being whose coexistence crosses over the consciousness of time. He's a literary character based on real people, Robert Perry and James Dawson. Patience Perry is an entity who's a type of time traveller who continually reincarnates himself in many different forms to witness and play out the history of the narrative and to set things right. From the start, he's vilified and bullied into the Brotherhood by his adopted brothers Hezekiah and Ormond Perry, and he soon becomes their minion and their smuggler. Patience Perry there is the reader's witness and narrator, briefly interrupting the plot in different eras, appearing before and after he is born, often engaging in chance meetings with other main characters, sometimes as a ghost or an ethereal being. But we can also follow his own physical timeline from 1815 to 1920. He has numerous relationships on different levels with all the wives and the women of the Brotherhood of the Axe, and tragically, who are affected tragically by their husbands' involvements with the crimes that they commit. These liaisons are revealed through flashbacks and interleaves that weave over many generations throughout the novel. It is Patience who will take you as the reader on the journey to explore those spaces where anything could and did happen, including massacre, incest, murder and love. I would like to thank my father. Where are you, Pa? Oh, there you are, good. I'd like to thank my father, Malcolm, who contributed these wonderful visual works that are behind me for the book. Malcolm accompanied me on a road trip down to Victoria to meet James Dawson's great-great-granddaughter and help me with my research and meeting all the people and places that are found in the book. One particular highlight was our search for the actual site, which is in the book, of the Emu Creek Massacre, which has led us up kilometres of dirt roads and eventually led us to realise that the site was on private land. Had Professor Lindell's digital map of Australian massacres had been published, we may have found the site instead of relying on local informants who still refuse to give up its origins. I believe this experience influenced Malcolm when he created this very small painting over here called The River of Blood, which brilliantly and symbolically shows the pain of losing 35 innocent men, women and children from the Jargurd Nation by squatters, Fred Taylor and others. I thank him from the heart for creating the other beautiful works, and as it's his technique to search for the personal character in his portraits, he was ideal for the job of the book. As a result, he's created the most handsome character paintings that complement the narrative. Patience Perry is a dish, and Joanna's not bad either. All the paintings here displayed in the gallery are a testament not only to Malcolm's talent as a painter, but to his integrity in creating strong images from literary sources by looking into their souls. I'd like to conclude with a small reading from the novel, accompanied by my gorgeous brother Derek and the lovely Campbell Waters. Thank you to everyone who trekked out here today. Thank you to Derek and Campbell for giving their time to this event. It's made it very special. And thanks to all my family, Annika, my mum, and my beautiful daughter Katie over there, who also always supports me and shows interest in the things that I create. Enjoy the wonderful exhibition, and my deepest thanks to Libby Hathorn for supporting and encouraging me in this work, and to Dr. Kerry Glastonbury from Newcastle University for her wonderful guidance on writing this work. I hope I have created a piece of writing that does tell a new history and in some small way lead those that read it to go on a similar journey to themselves and discover more, because so far it's been an amazing journey. I race through the bush, startled by the screeching cockatoos. In a great flurry, they ascend towards the clouds. From the corner of my eye, a dirge of sparks flies. I hear the wood crackle. Fire engulfs the dray. Flames tear the sky down. And in the distance, Taylor sees me. He waves in the haze, warns me, keep clear. Inside the hut, blistering heat wafts. Dust and dirt build around the scrub. Its dark vapours choke, sear and bubble. The intoxicating black smoke encroaches. Its death dance takes my thoughts to them. I know them. Fire coils and plays with the tinder. The heat is a mirage, the air ablazed, and so I am compelled to run. I meander through country and lake channels that are Tarnpair waters, boldly snaking past Geranallum, the hill of fire, warrior of the dreamtime. 400 metres above the sea, he is turned to stone in battle with his brother Buninyong. For 1,000 years he has been silent. I fly on above Tarnpair, carefully barely touching the channel at Lake Notuk, made with the weight of the man-eating bunyip. The lake flows and runs off to form Borag Yalak in Purinyup, where the Jargurg Warung sleeps. It's this place the whites call Strathdowney, and it brings Taylor, Hamilton and Broomfield too, with their savage cure that turns the river red. And then quiet. No voices, only blank eyes to the last of the trees. Tangled in the blood-red river is the last melting breath. Limb by limb, they climb toward the sky. The thin vapours mourn for the marmong. The velvet skin absorbs the night. Black and white cockatoos gather up high in the trees. They wait, drifting with a silent, deafening sorrow. At twilight, the smoke has cleared, and I start to walk back to my hut. Later that evening, I hear hooves in the bush, and as I peer out to look, I see Taylor sitting on his veranda. He seems agitated, as there are horses in the distance. Unfamiliar voices call out, and I can hear his heart beat faster upon every gallop. The horses seem to be racing towards us. He panics. This was new. But Taylor had enough sense to fear the protectorate. I see him put his fork down, take his gun, jacket, money and purse, and without saying goodbye to Joanna, he runs off from his horse, flies from the paddock and makes his escape.